Unit 3 helped me to set aside what we have learned about the profession of occupational therapy and learn more towards about the actual practitioners, and it was helpful to see the differences between the OTAs and the actual OTs, and to see the different roles that we're going to participate in and different qualities that we need to have. And I like learning about the Centennial Vision because it is basically the roots of occupational therapy, and I like the fact that it can change and we can reflect back to what has been working and what hasn't worked, and we can change that, and everything goes back to the roots of the profession, which was really nice to know about. And my favorite areas of practice was the aging in place, and I really like the fact that we can work with clients who are able to remain at home and in the comforts of their own home and their community, and I feel like this gives them a better quality of life and it's more comfortable for them, and I feel like it's just a better environment to work in, and I really like that we got to learn about that. One area that we learned about that kind of threw me off was the driving and training programs. I didn't realize that we participated in this because, I don't know, I just didn't see it happening as much, but now that I look at all the skills and functions that we need to have in order to perform this task, I can kind of understand it a lot better, and I think it's a good idea that we can participate in this. And I learned a lot of differences between the OTAs and the OTs, and I did not know that we couldn't like change goals just on our own as OTAs, that we had to go to the actual therapist for this. And so that was really helpful to learn what you can and cannot do as an OT versus an OTA. And I didn't know that you can move 3 different ways in this profession. I thought that you could only move up, so it was nice to know that you could go, vertical or anything like that. But I thought that you could only go one way, but it was nice to know that you can move different ways in your profession. And one of these was an entrepreneur, and I found that very interesting because I did not know that you could basically be self-employed and still carry out as a therapist and perform these services. So I thought that was really good. And I didn't know that we had to evaluate and reevaluate with some of our services that we provide, but I can see now that we need to reevaluate. That way we know exactly what we have covered and discussed and what we have progressed on and what we need to practice more on. So I can see that is very important to do. And I feel like chapter 16 really helped me to learn more about my therapeutic use of self. And I feel like this is one of the biggest parts because it helps you develop trust and it helps you to communicate and relate well and develop rapport with the client. And I feel like this is just a really good area to learn about, and it kind of opens you up and allows you to see more towards yourself and what you would want, and to focus on what other clients will also want, which will help us in the future, because sometimes we also won't agree on things, but we need to learn these necessary skills in order to help them in ways that's going to be progressive. And I felt like in chapter 17, our clinical reasoning, I feel like that was really important because we need to know and make our sound judgments, and we need to do what is best for the client and not what is best for us, but what's going to benefit the client most. And I really liked whenever we made all of our discussion boards, kind of helped us and gave me more viewpoints on other people's clinical judgments and reasoning and what we have learned. And I felt like fieldwork has helped a lot with this because you've been able to actively see what goes on with this. But I feel like it just goes from different strategies, and that you just learn so much using your clinical judgment. And I feel like the more you practice this, the better that you get. I feel like it ranged from like novice, and that's right around where I would be because I'm still a beginner, but I'm kind of getting it, but I'm learning more towards the coursework and everything else. But I feel like after experience and more field work that everything's going to get better. But I feel like clinical reasoning was one of the biggest ones that we learned about in chapter 17. And overall, Unit 3 was very good, and it is very helpful to learn more about what we need to know and just basically the differences. And that's mostly what I learned was the differences of OTAs and OTs.